Welcome to Life by Design. I'm your host, Robin, and I am thrilled to welcome you to this space for real conversations about how we live, how we show up day in and day out, because the quality of our life is shaped by our habits. What we do in ordinary time allows us to be extraordinary. We can unpack what it takes to truly live well and be well in real life. Welcome to Life by Design. And I'm just so excited that you're here. Today, I have the opportunity to have a chat with Debra Roberts. Now, she is a clinician. She has this amazing career as a social worker, and she's created these tools and these resources for us to learn how to have conversations. And I have to tell you, I was the student. She was my teacher today. She took me to school. I loved so much the time that we got to spend in conversation and just what it feels like to be present with someone who really gets it. Now, Debra has made her program that she's going to talk about near the end of the episode. It's available to us as listeners. And this is one of those places where, as you know, I don't do a lot of endorsement. I don't do brand stuff. That's not my jam. What I am all about is sharing information with you of things that work. And in this episode, like I literally got taken to school and it works. I connected some dots. I hope you take this away for the learning opportunity that it is. It's a tool, it's a gem. I'm so excited for you to tune into my conversation with Debra Roberts. Today, I'm looking forward to introducing you to Debra. So, we're going to talk all about the relationship protocol. Debra has an amazing wealth of information around supporting people with conversations, communication, and I'm just so excited to welcome you to the show today, Debra. So, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Robin. It is truly my pleasure.
Oh, well, thank you. Now, I know for some folks, they haven't had a chance yet to learn about your work. So can you tell us just a wee bit about the good work that you're doing and maybe a little bit about your background to give people a sense of who is Debra and what are we going to give, what do we get to talk about with you today?
Absolutely. So, I am actually a combination of experience and training.
Mhm.
I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm trained in EMDR, a
Mhm.
form of trauma therapy.
Yeah.
And I've also been a business consultant. And I've done all those things for a few decades.
Mhm.
We'll say that.
Yeah.
And so, during my work, I've worked in both business settings, personal relationships, and I found that it didn't matter the setting, the work was pretty much the same because people are people. And
Yeah.
so I would often start by teaching them how to talk to each other. And
Yeah.
ultimately, that led to realizing that I was doing something different. And it led to a book called The Relationship Protocol because I all of a sudden gave it a name.
Yes.
And now I have programs and for the workplace, but also for personal use. And it's practical, logical, actionable
Mhm.
ways of communicating, changing even just a little shift in your mindset can make such a big difference.
Yeah.
So that's me.
That's amazing. And I love this idea that, here you are in the thick of it, right? You have the training, you have the expertise, you're in the thick of it. And again, the people change, the situations change, yet the tools that we know are research informed, that we know that actually make a difference. Because when they are
Yes.
generalizable across groups like that, we know like, hey, we're on to something. And then what I love that you did is it like you made it wildly available. And as somebody who
Mhm.
believes really deeply in accessibility, like I love the fact that you have this resource, you have this approach that, again, this will give people the tools that are going to help them improve not only like professionally, but personally and really strengthen those
Mhm.
relationships. So I'm so excited to dive in because I am a student. I want to learn all the things, Deborah. So like where do we even start? Like where do we go from here?
Well, I think that there's a basic understanding that I think people think that they're good communicators
Yeah.
because we all can communicate to some
Yeah.
extent. I'm a good enough communicator,
Mhm.
or I don't really need to do any better at work. We're fine. But the truth is, we can all be better communicators. And if you're not having the conversations that you know you should be having, if you're avoiding
Mhm.
conversations because you're afraid of hurting someone's feelings, you're afraid it's going to get worse, whatever it is, then there's a problem. And I didn't even realize this. they don't teach communication, foundational communication skills in school. They don't teach you
No.
how to diffuse, how to start a conversation. So if you didn't grow up in a household where there was some modeling or support in how to do those kinds of things, you were out of luck. And hopefully somehow you managed it on your own. But in general, we are not great at communicating with each other, particularly around our differences.
Yeah, so well said. And what I appreciate that you've just really highlighted is the fact that so many of our practices are like, again, through trial and error, right? So, if we
Hmm.
happen to win the lottery in the sense that we're born into a house with really great communicators where we're able to put some of these practices, we see them modeled for us. It's like, okay, you're at a huge advantage because the majority of us, we don't have that. Or perhaps, and one of the things that I've seen is that there are certain things that we talk about in some households, and there are certain things that we do not talk about in some households. So,
Yes,
again, just these norms that get created about communication, even on matters that might not be divisive or not even difficult. There's just some things that are like, we don't talk about that. And again, I think
that's
that
right.
just breaks down that communication and also our confidence that we can talk about,
Hmm.
in some cases, difficult things.
100%. I'm going to carry you with me wherever I go. You're completely reinforcing everything that I say. I mean, it's so important that we can express what we want and need in our life, whether it's with a clerk in a store,
Mhm.
someone in a restaurant, a doctor that you're dealing with,
Yeah.
an important relationship, an intimate relationship, whatever it is. I want everybody to be able to say what's on their mind, express what they need in a way to get the best outcome. Because
Mhm.
that's the key part. It's not just, okay, go,
Yeah.
blurt it out and hope
Yeah.
it lands. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So that's my goal, is to teach people these small steps, actionable, digestible. You could do it right away
Yeah.
and make a difference.
Yeah. Deborah, one of the things sometimes I hold space with is having somebody like yourself, like studying a particular field, and me choosing to study psychology and behaviorism. It's like I almost feel like I get to walk around with these little cheat sheets sometimes, where I
Mhm.
actually sometimes get a wee bit disheartened, where I'm like, why aren't we teaching this in school? Like, why
Oh,
are we not really having that conversation? And I do know that they are starting to teach, especially around emotional learning. Like, we are starting
mhm.
to see that trickle into the curriculum. However, so often when I would be watching someone struggle or watching some of where we kind of repeat what we don't repair. So people end up in the same situation again and again. And I just realized it's like the reality is like, like, you just don't have these skills. Like, you're underskilled in this area. Or even noticing, I'd be in a difficult conversation, for example, and having a moment where I'm like, this person doesn't have the skills to be able to have a
Yeah.
conversation with me, or me having to manage my expectations. And again, not to suggest that, because I have this background or this education, I'm an
Mhm.
excellent communicator. Oh no, like, I carry my own narrative around the fact there's certain areas that, I'm still learning and I'm still growing. But again, just realizing, like, as you said, these are some of the basics that if we could just get these basics out there into the world, I think we could have some really meaningful conversations and actually get somewhere, as opposed to just being in this power struggle.
Yes.
Yeah. So where if you had to again,
Beautifully said.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate your positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
So what would you say are some of the, I would say, kind of like pitfalls or maybe like problems of practice? Like, what are some of the like ones that you tend to see in your very, very, very strong career? Like, what are just some of those, like, hey, Robin, these are the go-to areas where people tend to drop the ball, or these are the
Yeah.
barriers or the ones that, like, oh, these are the big ones. What are the ones that we see?
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, to hear you describe it, how I usually say it is, I've been in the trenches.
Yes. Yeah.
And the beginning of my career was all in nonprofit work, where
Mhm.
I was going to the train tracks at night because we got a phone call that Johnny was running away from home. And now, I mean, it was
Yeah.
really crisis intervention and connecting with people quickly, and not realizing how that would benefit me as I moved forward, helping couples who were on their last. I was often the last resort. Those
Yes.
were my
Yep.
constant phone calls. You are our
Yep.
last resort for a business, for a relationship. And my goal, like yours, was to create some degree of hope.
Yes.
for them.
Yeah.
Because I think the first thing is, if we can help people um, achieve personal agency where
Mhm.
they feel that they can have some control over their life in some way by asking for what they need or expressing or setting a boundary,
Mhm.
then we've elevated their communication and improved the quality of their life. So, at a very
Yeah.
basic level, this is really about personal agency, which helps
Mhm.
with resiliency as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So, how do we do that? Well, first, it's what do I want to say?
Mhm.
What's important to me? What do I want to say? And thinking about the takeaways, because people just blurt things out,
Yep.
they start talking, and they assume the other person knows what they're talking about. They
Mhm.
haven't thought it through, particularly if it's an important conversation.
Yeah.
There's also often an assumption that the other person isn't going to accept what they're saying, or they're just going to be defensive, so I'm going to approach them with my shield up.
Yes.
I'm already making assumptions because you live on the other side of town, or you work in that department, or you look
Mhm.
a certain way, so I have an
Yeah.
assumption about you, and I approach you not with an open mind.
Mhm.
And that's a big problem in close relationships, and just, I think, in life in general, how we make assumptions about people and then we shut down
Yeah.
instead of having a bit of a more open mind
Mhm.
and giving that person the benefit of the doubt that maybe they also want to have a good outcome, or they
Mhm.
want to get along with you, or maybe they are trying hard to do better in school.
Yeah.
So it's applicable all over, but that lack of benefit of the doubt
Mhm.
is frightening.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I love what you're saying. And what I also see is this we talk about is that kind of the cognitive, kind of a bit of a cognitive barrier there where people are making assumptions, right? They are
Yeah.
because this is a, maybe let's say if we are using the example of a difficult conversation and we're trying to have our needs met and our needs aren't being met, we start creating these narratives about the fact
Mhm.
that, they don't listen, like, they don't care, or maybe it goes instead of being external, maybe it becomes internal and be like, maybe I don't
Mhm.
deserve to have this, or who am I to ask for this? And again, it just impacts so much the quality of our life when we think
That's right.
about our ability to be able to ask, to listen, to receive, to show up for these conversations. Like, it impacts like every dimension of our life in terms of our relationships, including the relationship we have with ourselves. And one of the threads I would love to pull on in terms of what you shared was that piece around agency and really building self-awareness, because sometimes
Mhm.
it feels like, as somebody who's been involved in therapy, both as somebody who received therapy, as somebody who did facilitate that type of work, it always feels like the people that are in therapy are to manage the people who aren't in therapy, right? Like, I remember a season where I'm like, I went to therapy to handle the people in my life who needed to go to therapy but didn't or wouldn't.
Didn't.
So I'm in that chair being like, help me deal with these people who don't even realize the like
Mm.
blast radius of how they're showing up
Yes.
in these relationships, whether it be a boss, a partner, a kid, a family member, doesn't matter. So could you tell me
Mhm.
a wee bit more about your take on that self-awareness piece? Like, where do we even start helping people raise their awareness?
Well, I happen to teach
Yeah.
that skill. And I
Teach.
and it's
Yeah.
it's so easy.
Yeah.
I know we're gonna talk about my program in a little
Yeah.
bit, but it's you can start raising your self-awareness in in a matter of minutes. While you're
Yeah.
brushing your teeth, you could be expanding your self-awareness, because if you realize that I impact the people in my life, the people I'm speaking with, they impact me. But let's say you're not aware of that.
Yeah.
I call it soldiering, where you're kind
Yeah.
of just moving through life and not paying attention. So you leave a lot in your wake
Mhm.
sometimes, or you're so upset you don't know it, and then you say things. Oh,
Mhm.
why did I say that?
Yeah.
I think I came on too strong. And as you said, then we tell ourselves these stories.
Yeah.
But if you stop and you just check in with yourself and you say something like, how am I doing? How am
Mhm.
I feeling right now? Well, I'm exhausted. So
Mhm.
it might not be the best time to have that conversation. Or I'm so ticked off at
Yeah.
what just happened. Or you notice that you were feeling okay before you had a conversation, but afterwards, you are all revved, your
Yeah.
body's tense, and you're ready to, punch
Yeah.
a wall or just let somebody have it. And
Yeah.
perhaps you were triggered by something that was said. So if you check in with yourself throughout the day and you simply look at what's going on, the circumstances,
Mhm.
and you say, how am I doing? How am I feeling?
Mhm.
You'll be able to start to know the things that are internal and the
Mhm.
things that are external that
Yeah.
affect you.
Yeah.
Then you can make, as you know, an
Mhm.
educated decision
Yes.
about whether or not you want to attend to those things.
Yeah.
That's personal agency right there,
Yeah.
knowing that you and I are two different people, and I make a choice about what to say to you, how I want to say it, and if I want to share my reaction with you
Yeah.
versus just being out there and not having any control over my emotions,
Yeah.
how I communicate with you. That dog is way too cute, that little
I
thing.
know. Thank
Sorry.
you. Oh, she's very distracting. I'm so yes, thank you for yeah.
I'm all good, but
No,
that's so cute.
thank you.
So it's a matter of knowing who you are and how you show up and making now you get to make decisions about
Yes.
how you want to show up. And
Yeah.
that's personal agency, knowing that we can control somewhat of our environment. We can't
Yeah.
control the other guy,
No.
but how we speak to them, this is a real good one. You ready for
Mhm.
this?
Yes.
How we speak to someone matters.
Mhm.
And here's why. That will be their takeaway from the conversation.
Yeah. Just like
I
that.
mean, if
Yeah.
you and I are just letting each other have it, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to explain something to you, and you start yelling at me or being more aggressive with me, and you think, oh, thank goodness I made my point. I walk away and I'm not thinking, oh, thank goodness she was
Yeah.
aggressive with me. That felt really good, and I
Yeah.
heard everything she said, and that was really effective. No, I'm walking away saying, I don't like the way I was just spoken to.
Yeah.
That was intense. I don't want anyone yelling at me. I don't like that she was aggressive. The message that you were sending to me is gone. So,
Yeah.
how you speak to me, no matter what you are saying, it could be a really serious, sensitive, controversial, not so nice thing that you're
Yeah.
saying to me.
Yeah.
But if you say it in a way that I can hear you, there's less chance I'm going to be defensive. There's
Mhm.
less chance we're going to battle it. But there's an opportunity that I'm going to hear what you're saying versus
Yeah.
just letting someone lose their temper and thinking, "Ah, that felt so good." For the moment, it does, but you're
Yeah.
not going to get the impact you want.
No, no, absolutely. I really appreciate that example. And so I'm curious what your take is on this. And I love that it's like, okay, so we have to build our self-awareness and our agency, like we again being aware of ourselves. And it's a gift as a human that we can think about our thinking, right? Like that's one of the things
Hmm.
when people say, "Oh, I'm an overthinker." It's like, yeah, no, like we're the only ones who can do that. Like that's awesome. Let's use it for
Hmm.
good, right? So we can
Hmm.
think about our thinking, which is what defines us as humans in one way in terms of our ability for metacognition. I'm curious about what about the person who's like, okay, I'm self-aware. I realize that this conversation is difficult. I realize these are some of the, touch points or these are some of these landmines that are really creating this uncomfortableness for me. Is there actually a way to increase self-awareness of another person? Like, can
Hmm.
we get that person to be like, without us, browbeating them, without kind of wagging our finger, pointing out all their flaws? Like, is there
Hmm.
actually like a little subtle practice or maybe a very obvious practice that we can do to raise another person's awareness of the impact they're making for us?
Can I tell you that no one has ever asked me that question?
There you go. That's awesome.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sitting there saying, yeah,
Yeah.
but I then all of a sudden realized no one ever asked me
I
that
love
before.
that.
So here we go.
Yeah.
There are subtle ways. I call it participating but observing,
Yeah.
which is a term I'm sure you're familiar with.
Mhm.
But essentially, while we're communicating, I'm not just talking to you, I'm also aware of what's happening for you as well.
Yeah.
So if in that moment I can stop speaking and I can say to you, it looks like you're getting upset.
Yeah.
And you may say, no, no, say, okay,
Yeah.
well, it might not
Defensive.
appear that,
Yeah.
no, I'm fine.
Yeah.
It might not appear that way to you, but when your voice changed and you got a little bit louder, I think if we observe things and we point them out, not in a way to make someone feel like they have a weakness or a fault or a
Yeah.
flaw, but that by observation, you may not realize that when you talk to me this way, it makes me think you're annoyed at me or you're mad at me. I was just working with two people who said, when he starts humming, I know I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
And and he said, no, I'm just focusing on
Yeah.
something. She said, oh, well, I'm bracing myself for an argument. So
Wow.
now he knows if he's present and
Yeah.
wants to. That's a key part too. You can't make someone want to be more self aware
Yes.
or want to be a better communicator or want anything.
Yeah.
And, as a clinician, that was one of the things that I would say to people because I can give you the tools,
Yeah.
but if you're not honest with yourself and you don't really want to make a difference in your life,
Yeah.
then we kind of got nothing.
Yeah.
But if the person is interested in hearing your feedback, and you, even if they're not, if you say it with kindness and respect,
Mhm.
you have a shot of them wanting to learn from you. And also, we're all like gears of a clock. So
Mhm.
when one person changes, it forces the people around you that are close to you to change as well.
Mhm.
And so if instead of reacting to you the same way, instead of yelling back at you, I stop and I don't do that, you're going to all of a sudden realize what's going on here?
Mhm.
She's not doing, we're
Yeah.
not fighting like we used to because I refuse to contribute in the way that I had in the past.
Yeah.
So there are
So
a few
cool.
different ways to get that message across, but it's done in a not an aggressive way, not in a here's a list of things you need to
Mhm.
change, buddy.
Yeah, totally. Deborah, what came to mind as you were sharing that is just two kind of examples that I've recently navigated, and if it's okay, I can share.
Yes.
One of the things, so my oldest, he's 21, he's off at university, his third year university, and a lot of our conversations now are by telephone. So we text, we exchange little memes on, Instagram. We exchange we have lots of different ways of communicating, but it's very different than living in the same building, like living under the same roof. And one of the things I've noticed is when we're talking on the phone, and if I bring up something that he might not particularly love, he'll have a propensity of like wanting to shut down. And I could literally like through the
Hmm.
phone, I can feel
Hmm.
my guy start to shut down. And I love what you said about participate and observe, because one of the kind of gentle invitations that I've done as his mom, as kind of one of his, because I still think I have a job to do, even though he doesn't live here, I'm mentoring and there's still work to be done as a parent. I'll be like, oh, dude, I must have said something that doesn't feel great because I noticed you're kind of like pulling back. I'm like, dude, I noticed you're kind of shutting down and kind of trying to land this conversation. You're trying to land the plane. And I'm like, could I just get like 60 more seconds of your
Hmm.
time? Can you just stay with me for this? Can you just stay with me just
Hmm.
for a little bit longer? And again, I didn't even kind of realize until you were sharing that about how, me kind of coaching him through difficult, just being present to difficult. And again, we're not over the telephone. I don't think is the place to have big
Right.
conversations. Like they're just little kind of conversations, but again, that are important. But I can sometimes hear him and feel him shutting down. And again, just that
Hmm.
invitation, like, oh, dude, like, stick with me, dude. I need you 60 more seconds. Let's just kind of get to the end of this, get to the resolution. Let's get to where it wants to go. And what's so interesting is now, because that's one of the strategies that we use with one another, he'll actually say, oh, I'm shutting down. Just a second. Just a second. I'm shutting down. I am
I
shutting
love
down. I
that.
just need a second. I'm like, dude, take all your buffering time that you need, right? I'm here. But again, I just appreciate that. I never really thought of that as me building his self-awareness. But with the
Hmm.
example that you described, I'm like, oh, okay, that's something that I know just recently that, Hunter and I have learned a new way. It's like a new tool in our toolkit,
Hmm.
because the ways we communicate are different. Because it's not just the ear to ear conversations that I always get when he's just kind of hanging out next to me in the kitchen or watching TV. It's changed. And so our approach has to change because the environment's changed.
Yes. And also, you've educated him.
Right.
And that's really what you're saying, that
Yeah.
you gave him feedback in a way that he could hear it and he's applying it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, you also know when he's losing interest or shutting down, whatever it is. And then you have a choice because you're present during the conversation.
Yeah.
So you, Robin, have a choice of, do I point it out or do I just say, hey, you know what?
Yep.
Let's catch up tomorrow.
Exactly.
And so, but if you're not paying attention and you're only focused on what you're saying or what you're thinking, and we do that too,
Yeah.
then you're going to miss those cues. But um, I mean, I have boys
Mhm.
too,
Yes.
older, and one of my sons did a semester in Barcelona, and I remember, he was excited and telling me about it, and I don't know why this is so crystal clear to me. I remember saying to him, I'm not there with you and I've never been there. And I need you to add a little color to the
Oh, I
sentences
love
so
that.
that I can feel like I
Yeah,
understand, like, what's your apartment like?
yeah,
And he understood that, as
yeah,
opposed to saying, you're not telling me anything and I'm
yeah,
getting frustrated. It
yeah,
was done in a way that said it would help me.
yeah,
It's like what you did. You said, I'm noticing this.
yeah,
And if, said with annoyance, frustration, the person knows that and it makes
mhm, of
them uncomfortable. So
course.
why not just think, how do I want the other person to feel?
Mhm.
And let that guide how you speak to someone. How do I want them to feel? What
Yeah.
do I want their takeaway to be? I don't want it to be that I was, unpleasant.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's so and I love that kind of even just that when you were sharing about prompting your son to give a wee bit more of the details, it's,
The
in my mind,
color.
it's like, paint me a picture, right? Like, paint me a picture
Yes,
what it looks like where
exactly.
you are, especially you're in such a beautiful part of the world. I've never been there. Like, paint
Yes.
me a picture, like, help me understand, which is so interesting. The second thread I would love to kind of bring it back to is, as I said, I had 2 examples. What other came to me was recently I was having a conversation with someone who there's history. So there's always just this like underlying tension, right? Like there's just always
Mm,
like you feels like you're walking on maybe eggshells sometimes. And what was so interesting, and I've said this before, it's like sometimes in certain conversations, like I will regress back to like angsty teenager very quickly, right? Like that's my own
yeah.
story I bring with me. I'll sometimes regress back. And I remember having this conversation, and literally just because my youngest son, Jax, there's a term that these teenagers are using around like rage baiting, where it's like they say stuff just to see if they can like get you to react. Cause really it's about trying to get you, are you paying attention? Right. So it's the same as
Mm.
when you're like telling somebody something and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, oh, by the way, the Blue Jays are now in October season baseball and they're going to the World Series. And they're like, whoa, wait a second. What does this have to do with the Blue Jays? Right. And it's like, you weren't paying attention. Right. So it's when you kind of
Mm,
steer the conversation off as a way of like doing a bit of a check. So the teenagers, these youngins, call it rage baiting, where they basically say something just to see you get outraged. And again, I'm sure it's used for bad. Don't get me wrong. But anyway,
yeah.
so Jax had been talking about this rage baiting, and I'm having a conversation with this person. And again, long backstory, lots of just underlying tension. And I was sitting there listening to them say some things, Deborah, and I'm just like, you're rage. I didn't say this out loud. This is Robin talking to herself. I was like, this is rage baiting. Like you
Yeah.
literally are looking for a fight. And it's funny because this is somebody I've been in relationship with for decades, right? And it's like, oh my
Mm,
gosh, I didn't even realize like we always end up in these uncomfortable conversations. It's like you are literally bringing me into something and I'm like the teenager would call this rage baiting. And what was I'd never noticed it before. I never noticed that he would literally use language to try and rile me up because he's installed those
mm,
buttons as far as I'm concerned, so he knows what buttons to push, and
yeah.
it was wild to just remove myself slightly to be like, "Oh, I'm not gonna play this game." So
I'm
he
not
would
going to
say
engage.
something that I knew was inaccurate. I had actually what I thought was right information, but instead of getting into a power struggle, I was just like, "It's not worth it." Like, it's not worth it because 'cause I'm the one that leaves upset all the time, and so
Yeah.
again, just recognizing when we choose to lean in to that difficult
Mm,
conversation like I did with Hunter. And then the other example, when I realized I was observing and participating and decided, hey, I don't want to be rage baited, even though I'm sure that wasn't what he would call the behavior. But again, just
yeah.
realizing, oh my gosh, I don't have to engage. Like I can literally be in conversation in this moment and not get in the
And
ring
choose.
and choose not to fight and choose not to
Yeah.
be the one who gets upset. So I'm just
And
having a
then,
little breakthrough, so thank you for that breakthrough. It's like, "Oh,
but you walk away from that feeling like you exercised your personal agency in that moment.
yes."
When we bring awareness, we bring confidence, and that's my goal. Like
Yeah,
I really want to help everybody feel
yeah,
confident that they can have the conversations that they need to have,
yeah.
because or not.
Or not,
But to
exactly.
but to bring that awareness so that you can have a deeper relationship. If
Yeah,
you want to have a healthy relationship and not repeat the one that you grew
yeah,
up with, or
exactly.
change how you show up, or just I gave a talk once and this woman came up to me and she said, "Oh my God, I read your book."
Yeah,
And she was weeping, and my family was there and they were like, "Is she okay?" I said,
yeah.
"I think she said, I just can't believe what little I knew about
Oh,
communicating and how basic. I mean, it's so basic, Robin. I'm
yeah.
not that smart. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
like there's no words in my program, my communication tools that people haven't heard before.
Yeah.
I just put it all together differently.
Yeah.
And I will share with you that I was doing this work as a clinician and as a consultant for over 20 years
Yeah.
before I even realized I was doing something different,
Yeah.
because it was so natural to me and
Mhm.
logical and practical. And finally, one day, I all of a sudden thought, something's up here.
Yeah.
Like, lawyers are calling me to save
Yeah.
companies and
Yeah.
saying, no one else, what are you doing? And divorce lawyers and couples, we've been to 4 therapists. Now we have tools.
Yeah.
Like, so I want everybody to have these tools. That really, when I thought, can I make this universal? Is this universal?
Mhm.
I shared it with some people. I did a training and said, can I duplicate this for everybody? And everyone's like, yeah,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
everybody. So that's really how this started. I did years of due diligence because I couldn't imagine that no one had done this before.
Wow. Okay, so, like, woman, you are good. Like, I like, I'm somebody who, like, I love when, like, the teacher gets schooled, just so you know. Like, I love humbling moments, and
Oh,
I'm just sitting here being like, "Dear goodness, she just connected dots for me that, like, I needed somebody to connect my dots." So, like, Deborah, if that is not, like, a testament to your skills where it's like,
oh,
I kinda think I know what I'm doing, and you literally just schooled me on something that I am so glad that you just shared with me, helping me get there. Like, you are masterful at your delivery. And if this is just even just a snapshot of what somebody would be able to experience or get working with you and interacting with your program, like, oh my goodness, like I'm all in. I want to learn more.
oh.
I want other people to know how to access your program. So we will make sure to include that in our show notes. But you,
Mhm.
like, oh my goodness, in just this short time together, I want to just thank you, thank you, thank you, because you connected some really special dots for me that feel really, really important. And I'm very appreciative of that. I love learning, and thank you
Love that.
for teaching me and teaching our listeners. And I hope this is the first of many conversations that we can
Same.
have, because I feel like we're not even like scratching the surface yet of some of
Yeah.
the big bright ideas that we can share with the world. So Deborah, thank you for the gift of your time. And if there's
Thank
any
you.
other pieces that you wanted to share or add about your program, how people can reach you, follow you, please take this time, and over to you.
So I would love for everyone that's listening to take my program. It's intentionally affordable. It's called My Communication Tools, and you go to mycommunicationtools.com. It's 10 short lessons, digestible material. You can use it right away. It's only $79, but we have a special coupon code
I
that you
love
can
it.
use for Robin's listeners, where you'll get 10% off, because I want to make the world a kinder, more peaceful place where we can talk to each other, even about our differences.
Mm,
And for me, this is my legacy. My communication tools gives you that opportunity to do that. It's everything I talked about here and more: self-awareness skills, foundational communication tools, and coping strategies.
I
So it's
love that.
really
Oh,
pretty powerful. Yeah. So
well, Deborah,
thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for sharing that with our community. I love being able to share accessible resources that, like, that actually, like, effing work. Like, there's so much
Mhm.
noise out there about, this, try this, you have to do this. And it's like, as somebody who is just like so fed up with all of the noise, when somebody like comes through and it's like this shining light of like, this is research informed, this is battle tested, this is field
Yeah,
tested, this is real,
it works.
it works, like, and it, like, works not because you're an endorser or an influencer. It's like you are a
Right.
practitioner who has taken a tool out of your professional practice and said, "Hey, the world needs more of this." So for that, thank
Mhm.
you for your service, and thank you for creating something that will be able, as you said, to meet that idea of things being kinder, because the world needs that right now. So Deborah, thank you. I've enjoyed our time together today. Thank you for spending time with me on this episode of Life by Design. I appreciate if you have a moment to pay this forward, share it with someone who you think might benefit from the ideas shared in this episode. If you're feeling so inspired, please also rate and review the podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Take good care, and I'll see you next time.